All right. Hey guys. Welcome. I don't think I've done live in a long time. So hi, how are you? It is Tuesday. And today I want to talk to you about basic art supplies. So whether you're learning to draw, whether you're joining the drawing class that starts on December 1st, or if you're just curious about what do I need in general? I go to the art store. There's a million things. I don't know what to pick. I don't know what's actually going to help me. I can't really test it while I'm there. And I need to know how to navigate basic supplies so that I can get what I need and not spend like hundreds of dollars. Unless you don't care and you're there to spend hundreds of dollars, in which case, go nuts, because they're all fun and you learn by trying new things. So, basics. If you don't want to go to the art store and spend tons of money, or you can't get there, or whatever, you can use your basic number 2 pencil with an eraser. Make sure you have an eraser, and like computer paper. Okay, this is really all that you need. There is nothing above and beyond this that we're going to talk about in that class, or that you need to purchase and spend a ton of money on, so that you can just learn the basics of how to draw simple shapes, 3-dimensional stuff. Practice. So this will get you through. Find a place to put all these because you'll want to see your progress. But for the most part, like, this is enough. Make sure you have a sharpener. Okay. Find it around your house. Dig in your kid's backpack. You know what I mean? Like, this does not require you to go spend money. Just grab this stuff. Now, if you want to investigate into other supplies, or you already have some and you're like, I don't know what to tell the difference, we're going to go through my giant box of supplies here, and I'm going to show you what I've got, and I'm going to tell you what I know about the different tools that will be useful for you if you're just learning how to draw, and the tools to kind of stay away from, because they make it a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible, but I'll explain why. So if we're looking at writing instruments, let's look at pencils. So if you go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby or whatever, and you go to the sketching, drawing section, you're going to see like racks and racks of pencils, and maybe they look like this, or maybe they look like this. But what you'll notice is they've all got like a number on the end, and it'll be, can you see that? It'll be an H at the end, or it'll be a B, okay? These are codes. These are telling you how soft or hard the graphite inside is. So it's good to know, because different hardnesses accomplish different things. If you have a really hard pencil, if you really have a really hard lead, it's gonna give you these are more for like technical drawings. So architecture, that kind of thing, that you don't want smudging. You don't want smudging to be happening. You want a harder pencil. So look for the H's, okay? H is for hard. The tricky thing about this is that they don't use S for soft, they use B. So B is the softer pencils. And then the numbers are gonna tell you like how hard or soft they are. So right here I've got, I'll show you all of these. Let me line them up so you can see. We have, I think this is backwards, but it's B, 2B, 4B, and 9B, okay? Excuse me. Just a regular B, this is equivalent to your number 2 pencil, okay? So that's a good standard for you to measure this against to see if you like really hard or really soft. The higher the numbers go, the more intense that hardness or softness. So a number 2 hardness is going to be a number 2 softness, because we're on B's, is going to be a little bit harder than a 9B softness. So let me see if these are sharpened and I can actually give you an example. All right, so this is our 9B. That's what that's gonna do. So it's and it's real easy to like smudge around and make shadows with. okay? That's what that means when it says soft. You can do it, you can push harder, and it's gonna give you a lot more darkness because it's just very soft and it'll come out a lot easier. If I do a 2, see, my line is thinner and it's gonna be less smudgy. Still smudgy, but less so. And if I push down, it's not quite as like in the store. I encourage you to, just a little bit on paper just to see what you like. So 9B is going to be your softest pencil because it's the highest softness. Anything down from that is going to get harder, harder, harder until you get to your, where did I put it? Your B pencil. That's kind of neutral. There's also, I don't know where this is. There's also one that's just H. And that's kind of neutral on the other side. You've got your straight B, your straight H, and there's an HB in there. And these are, and then you go up to the H's. So a 2H is not going to be as hard as like a 9H. And 9H is going to be your hardest pencil, your hardest lead. So why does it matter? Why am I telling you that? Because if you are learning to draw, it depends on what you're learning to draw, right? If you are looking at a very precise perspective drawing of buildings like architecture, like I was using as my example, you may care that the lines are not very smudgy. Versus if you're trying to shade something, a still life, or practice what we're going to be talking about in our drawing class, our drawing course, which is a lot of how to make things look three-dimensional, you're going to want to be able to do a lot of that shading. Is it absolutely imperative? No. Like, I'm going to teach you how to shade with just a pencil. You don't always have to use your thumb. So it's an option, but I want you to know what's out there for you, so you can make informed decisions. Now there's other stuff, more stuff, ready? They're also kind of the same thing, but they're called graphite pencils. They're the same as this, and they'll have the hardness on them, like this says HB on the side, but it's just a stick of graphite. There's no wood around it. So if that's something you prefer, it's a little bit heavier. You can turn it on the side and use the whole thing for shading if you want to. It just gives you a little more versatility, and it'll also just sharpen that in a regular pencil sharpener. So these are kind of cool. I like these for canvases because I can get a better, they last longer when you're doing more toothy paper, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's pencils, that's graphite sticks, and then well, there's a couple more. Let's keep talking about these because I think it's fun. You can get what is also known as these charcoal pencils. And these are kind of fun. They come in black, they come in gray, they probably come in other stuff. Okay, so this will be in the same area of the art store. These are kind of fun because like you pull the string and then you peel it, and that's how you sharpen it. Like it peels off like this, peels all the way up, and then you've got a new point to play with. So charcoal is much like graphite in that it's easily smudged, but obviously it's going to be a whole lot darker. Okay, so that's my charcoal, and I can go in there and I can smudge like crazy. Okay, so but also gets all over your fingers. So just keep that in mind as you're playing with different supplies. If you have the money and you want to play with that, get a little bit of everything. They're not crazy expensive. This one was 89 cents. Okay, so if it's something you want to play with, I say go nuts because they're not expensive. Other charcoals, because they come in, you guys, the wonderful thing about this is they come in all shapes and sizes. So if you're not feeling the pencil, you can go for the charcoal stick. And these are these are old, but these are exactly what they look like, and they come in like sticks like this. Now these are going to be a little bit softer. If you're familiar with any kind of pastels, it's going to be that kind of consistency. Obviously it's a wider stroke, but you can turn it sideways and do all kinds of stuff. I think this is one of the coolest but also most confusing things about art supplies is that someone somewhere has come up with a way to use a drawing material in like 10 different ways, which feels like that's confusing because I don't know what to buy. However, what it means on the flip side is that you have options. So if you don't like the way that something feels, you can go get a different one and try that. It's different things for different people. Depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, if you're working in really big areas, you're gonna want a bigger writing instrument than this little thing trying to draw, whoops, as I throw it, trying to draw on a giant canvas like I had back there. This would take me forever. No, thank you. Also, I have to sharpen it every 3 seconds. Okay, here's another kind of charcoal. Some of this I've had for 20 years, you guys. So like, it'll last you. I got these in drawing classes when I was in college and I still have them. This is called vine charcoal. Super, super soft, like almost like crumbles in your hand, but it's fun. Because if you're working on big paper, okay, it looks like this. And there's just these sticks of charcoal. But it can be real, let's see if I have an open one. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Because these are so soft, the effect that you get on your paper is also very, very soft, which is an effect that you might like. So again, you gotta try it out. I'm gonna get a little piece here, just so you can see what this does. All right, so this is called vine charcoal, and it comes in like 4 different softnesses. This is a medium that I just pulled out. This one that I was showing you was a extra soft, okay? Extra soft is obviously going to just like crumble in your hands. But this, ooh, look at that, I forgot how these did. Look at this. It's super smooth. And like, look at that. So it's a different way. And it almost like is not even on my hands. It's very airy, which is a really cool effect if that's what you're going for. And you may not know, but now you have the information and you can play. And that is going to get you farther than anything, is to just get some supplies and play. Okay, so that's our charcoals. I think we've exhausted all of the graphite and charcoal options that you could possibly use. Now, if you're getting these pencils, right, or the charcoals, or whatever it is, there are going to be times where smudging is not what you want to happen. And if you don't have your regular pencils with your little erasers like this, or like that, it's a better one, right? Your standard erasers. And if you have big paper, you don't want to use little erasers. That'll take forever. You can get these kneaded erasers, which are like little silly putties. I can't believe this is still tacky. But they, you know, they look like a wad of gum. They just look like they're gray. I opened this one yesterday, so I'll show you this one. They'll come in plastic. They're not expensive. And they work just like silly putty. And I'm sure you've seen these before. Kneaded erasers, that's what they're called. And you just use them as you would, hey Katya, as you would anything else. Like stick to the paper and like go nuts. Okay, it'll take that right off. Ooh, especially that vine charcoal. Check that out, okay? So they're messy, but they're effective. So make sure you have erasers if you're going this route, because the things that I'm going to teach you in our foundations class bank on the fact that you can erase all your guidelines, okay? That's one of the benefits of understanding like the foundations and how to do certain things is like, it might feel like you're cheating, but this is how every artist does it. We have our guidelines, we have our markers for our proportions, we have our, you know, our little, I call them like little cheat codes in the background to get the shapes that you want to get, to get your drawing to do what you want it to do. It's necessary. So, and then you go back later and you erase the lines that you don't want. Okay, it's okay. You get to do this. Okay, that's part of drawing. It's part of learning how to draw. And I'm going to show you how to do all that. Okay. So that's your erasers. Get some kind. Doesn't really matter. All right, let's talk about paper really quick, and then I'll tell you what to avoid. So what I was showing you here, this is just your basic sketchbook. Okay, you can get this from a Michael's. You can probably find them at the grocery store. You know what I mean? You can also just use computer paper. Like I said, you don't have to go buy anything. You can get what's called mixed media paper. This one happens to be black. Don't get this kind yet. But it's a, what is this? Strathmore. I'm sure you've seen these. They make really good quality papers. They're nice and thick. Cardstock, vellum, watercolor paper. You know, they tend to be more expensive. So when you're practicing, I would say wait on this. Just me. But fun to play with and just see what different papers feel like with your different writing instruments. Watercolor paper is very toothy. It's so thick because it's going to absorb water, but it's very interesting to draw. It keeps ringing. You can also use tracing paper. I stole this from my kids' room. Really thin, obviously, because it's tracing, but works just as fine, you know, when you're sketching and drawing. And because it's thin, it's inexpensive, you know, so you can use it. Or bonuses to this is once you're done sketching and getting everything how you want it, you know, stick tracing paper over the previous one, and then you can like almost redraw your final design without all the erasing. Just food for thought. Okay, paper's pretty basic. All right, let's talk about what not to do, or what not to use, or even just what to avoid if you can. Okay, and I'll tell you why. So we've got crayons, colored pencils, and pastels. Okay. Now there's two kinds of pastels. One is more chalky. Okay, chalk is probably fine because you're going to be able to erase it. But like the soft pastels, all of these you can use, obviously. If this is all you've got around your house, and the fact that you don't have a pencil is keeping you from coming to drawing class, grab the crayons. Like, I don't care. But I say stay away from them while you're learning how to draw, because even though like these are pencils, they're very hard to erase. So if you want to go back and kind of change, you know, what you're doing, it's more difficult. You kind of have to start over. Obviously, same with crayons. Also with the pastels, because they're very waxy. Fun to play with. Do it. I'm not saying not to, but if we're looking at all of these different ones and I'm using a colored pencil here, right? It's waxier to the touch. And it's not going to come off at all. It did a little bit more than I thought it would, but it's gonna be a lot harder to erase. Okay, so it's not like a don't ever, right? Because we're not gonna say that. I want you to play with and practice with all the things. But for class purposes, I would say, you know, stick with the graphite stuff, because we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. That is the whole point of me teaching you how to draw. So if you're interested in learning more, I'm gonna go over this in more depth in our class. Like, first lesson is just about supplies. But again, I tell people, like, just come with a pencil and paper. You know, it doesn't need to be this huge investment in supplies unless you just want it to be. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about more of this. We're going to talk about, the whole class is based around learning how to draw in 3 dimensions. We're going to talk about the 9 laws of drawing. All of this stuff is like classically trained. It comes from the Renaissance. It's been around for hundreds of years. I'm going to teach it all to you because these are like the building blocks for you to be able to draw anything. If you know these things, if you know the basics of how perspective works and foreshortening and shadows and shading and dimension and overlapping and all these things that on a flat surface create this illusion of dimension and depth and 3D-ness, then you can apply those to anything. We're going to talk about spheres, we're going to talk about cubes, we're going to talk about cylinders, we're going to talk about cones. So those are our 4 main focuses. We learn how to draw those, we learn how to make them 3-dimensional, we learn how to put them together, and those in turn create pretty much anything else that you can imagine in this world. And we'll expand on that more in the class. So if that sounds something interesting to you, if you're looking to either get better at your drawing, if you want to learn how to draw, you've never drawn before, if you're like, I love to draw, but I cannot figure out how to make this on paper look the way that I want it to look, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, I can see it in my head, I can't get it out on paper, then this is for you, because that's what we're talking about. It's 16 weeks, 1 week at a time, 1 lesson at a time. There's group support. I'm in there with you. We're troubleshooting. We're practicing together. We're making a mess together. I'm super psyched. It's going to be really fun. So the link is in my bio. I think it's this way. If it's that way, that's fine. We'll put the link in the comments as well. Go check it out. The page has like all the details and like every week, like very specifically what we're going to be covering. So if that's interesting to you, please let me know. You can jump in there, or if you have questions, please ask. I hope to see you in there. I'm really excited about it. The first module itself is going to drop December 1st. So it's not live yet, but it will be here soon. But this is, I don't want to call it Black Friday pricing, but after Thanksgiving, the price is going to go up. So let me know if you have any questions. I hope to see you in there. Thanks for being here today. If you have any supply questions, drop them in the comments below, and I'd love to answer. So have a great Tuesday, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya. How do I stop this? I have no idea. There we go.